he's done a very deep study of constitutional principles, and now he goes around educating on the application of those principles to everybody. So let's hear it for Jacobs.
Thank you. Who's had a good time watching the dancers? I'm excited to see some Indian dancing after this. I just want to, I want to give you a walkaway, a takeaway on how to grasp some of the most fundamental principles necessary to understand our Constitution. In 5 to 8 minutes here, I'm not going to make you experts on the Constitution. However, my focus when I educate, now I could spend 5 hours sitting down with you going into a lot of depth. But when I go out and I educate, one of the most important things that I focus on is the principles. One of the things I noticed that is happening a lot right now with concerns at the state that our country is in, a lot of people are concerned with different issues. They're concerned with things happening in our schools. They're concerned with our elections. They're concerned with inflation. There's lots to be concerned about if you look for issues. And these individuals who are passionate about fighting certain things will try to put out a fire and discouraged when there's still multiple issues, not just still existing, but still coming up. And so it can feel very exhausting and discouraging when we're trying to work to make things better by solving certain issues, and yet more issues keep coming up. It's kind of like if there was arson in a building, and these hot spots keep showing up. There's fires that keep showing up, and they keep spraying a fire hydrant to put out a little fire that keeps popping up, and then more fires keep popping up, but there's never any investigation as to why fires keep coming up. I think it's critical that we address the core issue. Our divinely inspired Constitution has not failed us. We, the people, have failed it. What's so important about a 18th century document? Well, it's not the piece of paper that's important. It is the principles that it's founded on. Has anybody read The 5,000-Year Leap by Cleon Skousen? That's great. Anybody who hasn't read it, I'd encourage you to pick this up. It's an easy read, but it's a very good one that helps show that man took 5,000 years with God through different types of government to finally learn the proper order of things. And it also teaches the principles that made it so unique. So I keep mentioning about principles. What is that? I want you to make a note to yourself, either by pen or on your phone. I want you to make a note somewhere. I want you to read just 3 things that are pretty short tonight. Before you go to bed, I want you to read these things. I want you to read the first paragraph of the Declaration of Independence. And I want you to read the 9th Amendment and then the 10th Amendment. These 3 things are what the entire rest of the document rests on. Let me give an analogy really quick to explain how our constitutional republic government works. First off, let me ask a question, and I want you guys to just shout out. Let me get all sorts of answers from you guys. Just shout them out. What is the American government? What is the American government?
Constitutional republic.
A constitutional republic. What does it look like? I'm not looking for any answer. Just shout out anything.
Three branches of government.
3 branches of government. So we have 3 branches of government for the American government, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's 3 branches of government for our federal government. But we have local government, state government, and federal government. We have multiple levels of government. That is the American government. In school, you're taught the American government is the federal government. You're taught to believe that we're somehow subjects to the biggest government that ever existed in history. America is still a land of liberty because despite our government growing and growing and growing, our Constitution has still protected us in ways. We need to have some restoration efforts, but we are living under the biggest government in history, bigger than Rome, bigger than Great Britain. It is the biggest government ever, and we're led to believe that we're somehow subjects to some empire in Washington, D.C. Now let me give this analogy real quick, and then I'll conclude, and we're going to enjoy some awesome dances. So, let me conclude with this analogy. I want you to picture yourself as a CEO. What kind of company that is, you choose. What kind of empire would you want to, what kind of financial empire would you want to build? What company would that be? Imagine this dream company. Now, as CEO, you're also the owner, so you don't answer to a board. There's not a board of trustees that you're answering to. You're the sole owner, the final authority for this company. In a corporation, you may have slightly different structures, but typically speaking, in a large corporation, you'll have the CEO. Below that, you'll have some other executives that are vice presidents. So you'll have like vice president of marketing, vice president of operations, so on and so forth. Below VPs, you're going to have directors, okay? And below director, you're going to have managers or supervisors. Now, who is the CEO in American government?
President. But it's supposed to be people.
Who's the final authority?
God is.
True. God is. But who did God give authority to in America? In all of land, in all of earth. It's not just America, it's just America was founded properly on this idea. So the people are the CEO. The people are the owners of this corporation. We are the final authority, and this is not Jake Oak's opinion. This is why I asked you to look at the 9th Amendment. Don't let anybody try to tell you, oh, that's radical, that's whatever. This is why it's so important to not just say, oh, I support the Constitution. It's so important that we are familiar with it so we can defend these things. Hey, no, actually, have you read the Constitution recently? Under the 9th Amendment, it says, the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. So in non-18th century language and more modern terms, anything that's not delegated is reserved by the people. The people are the final authority. So you're the CEO in America. Below CEO is a VP. Who would be VP in government? If the people are on the top, who would be below the people?
Mayors.
Mayors? county commissioner,
Governor?
so your local government.
Representative.
Yeah, your government, yeah.
Your local government, city government, your county sheriff, your local government is your VP. They are your go-to to protect you from all other levels of government. Your county sheriff swears an oath to the Constitution. The county sheriff doesn't answer to a mayor like a police chief. They swear only to the Constitution, and they are your protection. And your county commission could be the same way, and your city council if you put enough accountability on them. Now, below VP is general manager, general entry-level manager. This is, then you have director, okay? Director is going to be your state government, your governor, your state legislature. So each of you, wherever you live, you're assigned a state house representative and a state senator. So we have a legislative body in our state that makes laws, and depending on where you live, you could go online, simply put in your zip code, and find out who represents you. It's not some mystery of this big body of people. There's somebody dedicated to represent just you for your district, depending on your zip code, and you can become familiar with that person. If something concerns you in our community, you get to contact them and say, hey, this concerns me. So that is going to be your director. The entry-level manager is the federal government. But wait, isn't that the national government? Why am I saying they're down here? Let me give this example. As CEO, let's say that you formed a committee. You need to change something. Let's say you're gonna rebrand. And you chose to have this supervisor or entry-level manager sit on a committee, a special committee, that is going to rebrand the entire company. So they're going to make a decision that affects the entire company, so it's nationwide or it's company-wide that this decision affects, but you've only tasked them for that one thing. Okay? So you would never say that this entry-level supervisor, because they get to be on a committee to help make one decision that's going to affect the entire company, because they're given this special task, you wouldn't say that they are a bigger authority than the CEO, would you? Would you?
No.
No! All right, so the federal government affects things nationwide. However, as James Madison put it, again, we can defend these ideas with the quotes of the founders, using the Constitution itself. You don't have to take my word on it. Study. So James Madison said, the powers delegated to the federal government by this Constitution are few and defined. So the federal government can only act on things that they have authority for. Article 1, Section 8 lists only 17 powers that the federal government has. If it's not in there, they don't get to do it. Let me ask you this question. When did women get the right to vote?
1920.
1920.
Same time everybody else did.
Women always had the natural right to vote. By early 1800s, there was politicians who corruptly came along and tried to trick the people, saying, hey, your Constitution doesn't say women get the right to vote. So you don't get a vote because the Constitution doesn't say so. But that's not how it works. The people don't check the Constitution to see what they get to do in the morning when they first wake up, what kind of brand of toothpaste they get to use, what kind of car they get to drive, what kind of color they're going to paint their walls. You don't need to go check the Constitution, flip through it, and try to see what you get to do. Because we are sovereign. We're the final authority. God gave us this sovereignty as His children, His divine spirits. Okay? And so the government has to justify to you to be able to do something. Instead of you trying to go to the government and say, hey, I want to do this, is there some kind of permission somewhere to be able to do this? Government has to come to you and say, hey, we're going to do XYZ law, and in the Constitution, here's our authority to do it. So again, Article 1, Section 8 is where is listed all their authority. And it's literally as simple as looking at the Constitution as a permission book. I'm going to conclude by saying liberty and God's plan of salvation are not two separate things. Anybody who says, oh, I'm not into politics, they don't understand what God is trying to plan for us. Liberty, the difference between liberty and freedom is power. Freedom is simply having agency and having the ability to make choices. Liberty is when you take that ability to make choices, and you make choices on proper principles, you empower yourself. You're empowered with liberty. You're given power, okay? And so, God wants us to receive all that He has. That is liberty. The Constitution is not about politics. It is about guarding God's plan for us. And I'm so appreciative that you guys came out to hear messages of liberty, also celebrate unity and diversity behind these principles. And speaking of diversity, let's give a warm welcome to Divya Dance Group, and they're going to treat us. Thank you.